Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dillon. I'm your host. And today, guys, we are going to be talking about hiring. We're going to be talking about recruiting, retaining, training, all that kind of good stuff to keep your people in the seats that you want them to be in, that they're doing well and excelling at, so that they continue to do excellent work here within the construction industry. So last week, I was at a ABC event in Illinois, and this was one of the presentations and kind of sessions that I sat in on. Took a bunch of notes and thought it would be really helpful for you guys to basically hear what I learned, my takeaways, and my 2 cents on recruitment, retaining, and really keeping your rock stars on your team. So, a couple big things when it comes to hiring. And if you listen to yesterday's episode, a couple big highlights: 500,000 skilled laborers are what we're missing within the construction industry. So we have a 500,000 person skilled labor shortage, and that's across the U.S. So what this really came down to, which I thought was very interesting, was effectively you've got like you're fighting over 40 plumbers, right? Like you're fighting over 70 electricians in your area. Like that is what you're fighting over. And so this comes down to like there's basically nobody unemployed at any given time across the entire industry. You're fighting over those handful of folks within your area to ultimately fill the positions that you're looking for. So it's kind of crazy what this really like comes down to in the industry. You're not, there's really basically nobody that doesn't have a job. And if they don't have a job, then they're really just between things, and you're going to have to try and retain them. So, uh, yeah, we need, and this is just for Illinois. So craft labor need is 53,000. They need 24,000 carpenters, 15,000 masons, 14,000 electricians, and that's just in the state of Illinois, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. But again, this goes to the whole 500,000 person shortage across the industry. For skilled labor. And then 1 in 5 people are 55 and older, which again, they're approaching retirement, and that's just within the construction industry. And then the other one is that for the 5.3 million contractors that make up this wonderful construction industry, 88% of them need some type of help in recruiting, retaining talent. So with that, the big things that got covered in this presentation were, if you're hiring field labor, you really need to be fast in doing it. Okay. Oh yeah, here's basically all the people. So electricians, there was and they make up 6.5% of the workforce. Across the US, there are 765 electricians that over any given month that are looking for a job. And then so divide that out by 50, right? If we say it's evenly distributed across all states, again, you're looking for like 12 people in your state that don't have a job. But 765 electricians, 523 plumbers, 400 HVAC guys. So you're again across your state, you're trying to fight over like 12 people, which is absolutely insane, right? And the 8.7 million construction workers make up 5% of the total workforce, and 3.2% of the 8.7 million is unemployed. So there's 13,000, and then most of that is non-union. So again, guys, like this is the type of numbers that you're fighting over. So if you're looking for field labor of any sort, the kind of big takeaways on this were, you need to make sure that you are, one, well defined in your criteria for that position. And especially, so we'll start with field labor. With field labor, you need to be, one, really fast for them. You need to not worry too much about their resume. Because for let's take, for example, like an electrician, be like, journeyman electrician, 25 years. That's their resume, right? Well, to really see if this guy's qualified. Like, you can't just dismiss the resume of 25 years journeyman electrician. It could be the best guy you've ever seen. You need to get on the phone, talk to him, go through, what have you been doing? Have you done this, that, and the other thing on your projects? And effectively, like, maybe bring them in, maybe not, but like, be ready to make them an offer and do that very quickly. Because again, you and the three other guys in town are going to be fighting over this same guy, and he's got multiple other offers. So if you don't move quickly, he's going to go somewhere else and take a job down the street. And that's pretty much the end of it. You don't have to work and look too hard to find another job nowadays, especially for skilled labor. Again, just showing you the numbers, you're fighting over like 10 guys. So with this, it's extremely important to move quickly and then to kind of scale it accordingly. So for like your field guys, again, that should be like same day decisions. Maybe for your superintendents, it's a couple day decision. For anybody in the office, you can take a couple, go through more interviews, right? More people, but try to condense it down into a day. Make sure that person sees everybody that they need to see within the firm to end up making that decision. Labor market is super competitive right now. Again, just looking at these numbers, and then especially your more talented folks or different talents, right? Your office folks, your leadership, folks that you're trying to fill these very key roles. Again, not to say that the field is not a key role. It is. You need those field guys. And we're having problems on some of the projects that I'm working on, to where we're now incorporating more prefab work in order to get the work done on site, because they have such a shortage of apprentices and skilled labor, or it's one really superintendent that's running the project, and then all they have is apprentices under them and not enough skilled labor to ultimately do the project. So it's been a real problem out there, and it will continue to be. So you're going to see more of the rise of prefab and all this other stuff to ultimately get projects done. So when you're looking to hire and go after folks, you really need to make sure that you have a defined role, responsibility. Like, what are these people actually going to do whenever they join you and your firm? But not to be in like the job description and the roles and responsibilities. Like, try to chunk these up so it's still pretty easy for folks to read through. They're not having to, they see this big long bulleted list and they're like, holy cow, even though they've done it all, right? Like a journeyman electrician or a site superintendent or foreman, like, they've done all of this stuff, but you see the whole bulleted out list, you're like, holy crap, that's so much stuff. Like, I don't know if I want to work here. When if you chunk it up, it's like, can you oversee uh apprentices, right? Can you train folks? Can you run a project, right? Like, chunk it up into bigger bucketed items. So it's like a, 5, 6 bullet list instead of 24. So really simple in some of this stuff. Um, like the benefits, like if you're hired for apprentices, hey, what are the trainings that you offer? What are the things that you can benefit with these guys? Retention, so that's kind of the recruitment side of it, is be quick in hiring, be quick in getting back to people. Speed is your friend here, right? Like, you need to be fast, you need to be able to respond to people, to vet them, to do, if you're doing background checks, to do those quickly, right? As you basically go up through this path. And then for people that you're going to take more time, like key leadership, all that kind of stuff, again, still be quick, but a lot of this comes down to scheduling all the people that that person needs to interview with, so that they can basically make a decision quickly if they want to come and join you. Because again, they're going to have multiple other offers right behind you and going and doing it. Retention. So moving along to retention, you've got to give these folks a path. So anyone within your organization needs a path of where they're going to go. What do they need to do to get a raise or increase their skill set, to then prove that they can do it, to then get a raise, right? To move, to get a promotion, to get that next title, to get that next piece, and again, like, the unions have done pretty well at this, as much as I rail against them. But the other thing is, like, look at the military. You have E1 through E6, and then all of your officer rankings. So, like, it's a pretty clear path for folks in moving up through the ranks and what this ultimately entails. So you make this very clear to all your people too, right? Here's what needs to be done at this level. Here's the next level. Here's your kind of career trajectory and path through the firm and what you can expect moving forward. It really helps people give some purpose. It points them down a path. It gives them direction. And it, hey, you need to make sure that you're able to, train the guy that comes behind you. And stuff like this, you've got to be able to backfill your spot. So we're going to hire somebody in, you train them and move them up, behind you through the hierarchy of the firm. And it really becomes that simple. So when you're thinking about this, again, it's like a military pipeline is the example that I like to use. Because again, it's just so well defined. It's been, there for 175 years, like, or 250 for like Marines, or what are we at? 1776. So you've got yeah, 250, 250. Yeah. So 250 years for the Marines, like you've got a very well established hierarchy and chain for military. I mean, it's pretty clear cut on how you move up and all that kind of stuff. So that was like one of the big pieces in this and being able to move forward. Um, for guys is to be quick. Make sure that you have core values and that you're adhering to them, that you've defined all of this stuff for your people. Um, and it's all the things that we've been talking about here for years, right? You want to make sure that you're quick in responding to people, that you have a clear roles and responsibilities, that you have a clear path of ascension and bonuses and pay and all that kind of stuff as you move forward. You don't need like a ton of perks and benefits and all that kind of stuff anymore. You need the basic pieces, right? You need healthcare, you need health insurance, you need pay time off, sick leave, like all the standard benefits. But a lot of it is going to come down to your core values. What's the culture like? How do you treat people? How do you reward people? How quickly do people ascend and, move up within the firm? Like all those things matter a ton to all of your people. So make sure that you're really adhering to this doctrine of speed, and that'll help you move forward, hire faster, retain guys, and then ultimately ascend them through your organization, right? And it's thinking about like the same thing on the customer side, right? And ascension is to do bigger and better projects for all of your clients. But think of that for your people, right? They want to work on bigger and better things. They want to come in, learn, train, grow, and then you're going to basically run them through the gauntlet, if you will, but run them through your company in a way that, hey, you're going to start here. This is all the stuff you're going to learn. Once you're able to demonstrate that you're able to do, these things, then we're going to move you to the next path, right? So for us, it's, hey, you're going to come in, you're going to do fire alarm shop drawings. You're going to learn how to do all this stuff. You're going to learn the basics of Revit and AutoCAD and all that kind of good stuff to learn drafting and some basics and do some fire alarm calculations. Then once you're able to do that, and it could take you as few as, a few weeks, a month. But once you do that, then you're going to ascend into kind of the next position and role. And you might stay there for 6 months, get, some nice set certifications, increase your pay. Once you do that, then we'll move you to doing, maybe you can stay in there for a while and you do full fire alarm design and work on projects that way. Or you move over to doing power system studies and power system analysis. Then you learn how to do and use all of that software. Then we move you maybe over to lighting. And some of this can, go back and forth, and lighting design, lighting layout, lighting criteria for projects. We can do all of that for you. Then when you learn all that stuff, then we, again, power systems, and then you look at designing power systems from scratch instead of just doing analysis on existing ones. Then we maybe you go into a project engineer role where you're designing a building from the ground up, right? And designing all of these systems. Maybe then from there, you go over to being a project manager, and you actually manage all of these projects. And then if once you've mastered project management, you go into estimation if you want, and doing that. And then there's management roles within each of that, right? So a guy who's been in the fire alarm department for maybe 6 months, a year, maybe he manages that department. if the manager, goes on to do other projects, right? So there's all sorts of levels and criterias and ways that you can slice this within your firm to really have an ascension path for folks as you go through. Again, look at like union ascension from apprentice to journeyman to master as you go through. So all of this has ascension criteria or ascension pieces that you can look at that have been well established to use. And again, do your own type of training, your own criteria, but you have these set milestones that like, hey, if you are this, that means you know how to do X, Y, and Z on a job site within a project. And we've verified it and done all of that. And then make sure that you do your continuing ed to make sure that they keep up on it and know how to do it every once in a while, right? To be able to jump back into projects and help out so that they keep up those sets of skills. So that's how we're building out the engineering firm to again move people up through the ranks and have this very defined set of criteria, this very defined path for folks so that they're able to come in and see like, hey, this is where I start, this is where I can go. You can stay in a project manager for a long time. Some people really love that type of role and staying in there. Some people maybe want to move up to estimation and seeing the front ends of projects and doing all that pre-design. Some people might want to stay in other places. And you just never know where a person is going to really enjoy and take off and be great. Maybe they become management and executive levels, but they have that path and ability to ascend as far as they want. Some guys in the military stay at a, E3, E4, E5, while others move up to admiral. You're going to have very different ranks and very different kind of aspirations within your firm. And you just got to find where people fit, what they're good at. And, you're going to have those folks that check in, check out, and other people that are going to work harder and kind of climb that ladder, if you will. But you got to have the ladder shown to them so that they know what they're actually climbing and what the benefits are as they ascend the ladder. So, guys, that's what I want to talk to you about: hiring, retaining, recruiting. As again, it's a big, big topic, especially in construction. 500,000 jobs short, and we need to make sure that we're retaining all of this skilled labor talent, especially, but again, also on the engineering and architecture side within the whole industry, right? We need to retain qualified, talented people and keep them in this industry as well as recruit others into it. Because again, we've got a 500,000 person deficit within the industry to complete all the projects that we need to complete. So with that, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. And until next time.